On the night of the 9th of July 1984, fire devastated York Minster. The evening had been hot and stormy, and lightning is thought to have struck, jumping from a conductor to an electric circuit and starting a fire in the roof space. As fire crews battled to control the blaze, clergy and staff rushed to carry precious artefacts from the building. To quench the flames, huge volumes of water were pumped from the nearby River Ouse. With the situation worsening and molten lead pouring from the roof, firefighters made the difficult decision to bring the roof down to save the rest of the building. As the shock of the news reverberated across the city and county, pictures of the ruined South Transept were carried on newspaper front pages across the world. The situation seemed bleak, yet amidst the destruction, rising above the smouldering timbers, a symbol of hope. Scarcely damaged hung the figure of Christ on the cross. The sculpture and the inscriptions on the wall beneath it are a memorial to the former boys of York Minster Choir who were killed during the First World War. Another cause for rejoicing, the glass of the famous rose window, cracked into 40,000 pieces by the heat of the fire, had been held in place by the melting of its lead solder, and it could be saved. The heraldic tablet beneath the crucifix in this photograph is a memorial to Arthur Percival Puricust, Dean of York 1880 to 1916, who had overseen previous restoration work on the Minster, including 33 of its stained glass windows. Now, as support poured towards the Minster from across the nation and the world, rebuilding work would begin.
COVID-19 is having a global impact in just about every aspect of life. Anecdotal evidence suggests that many more than the official data show are or have been ill, and thousands have died already. Lives and livelihoods are affected, and self-isolation deprives us of what makes everyday life tick. Many are discovering the hidden benefits of all kinds of technology for which we can be thankful. But these are no substitute for social interaction, for an embrace, a touch, a glance. There are times in all our lives when everything seems to come tumbling down, but rarely does it happen to all of us at the same time. Yet this is a bit what it feels like now. It's as if the way the world works has broken, and we're fumbling around desperately trying to fix it. This is what it must have felt like to the close followers of Jesus as they watched him die the most grueling death on the cross. They'd pinned their hopes and just about everything else on him, and it all seemed to end in disaster. Their world came tumbling down. To a lesser extent, this is what it must have felt like to those who tried to grasp the seeming incomprehensibility of the destruction of much of the Minster's South Transept by fire during the early hours of the 9th of July 1984. So much love, skill and commitment had been invested over the years in a place that meant, and still means today, so much to so many. The task of rebuilding must have felt utterly daunting. And yet for those who set about that task, the very fabric of the building, now partly in ruins, embodied a story which has death, destruction, and new life at its heart. The stones themselves proclaim God's presence revealed supremely in the death and resurrection of Jesus. The picture of the rubble taken in the aftermath of the fire hints at fragments of a story capable of being pieced together. Rising above the charred roof timbers lying on the ground is the Calvary, the figure of Jesus on the cross, a memorial to those choristers who died in the First World War, barely touched by the fire. Below it is a tablet commemorating a much-loved dean, Arthur Puricust. He'd initiated major restorations of the Minster between 1899 and 1907, much to do with the glass. In 1915, a testimonial was raised to celebrate his 35 years in office as dean. Not wanting the money himself, he asked that it be used to build a nursing home near the Minster. Although this has now been converted into privately owned dwellings, there are still some members of the Minster community who were born there. Here in the midst of the rubble are signs of love and new life, not only rising out of destruction, but seemingly present within it. The pattern of death and resurrection, focused in the person of Jesus, is built into the very structure of creation. This, perhaps, is how we're invited to approach COVID-19. The phoenix of new life rises from within the dying embers of what was. And this is our hope.